Hey guys, this is Miss Holly and Kent. We're about to go take a scavenger hunt and take a walk through nature. It's a beautiful spring day and we're going to see if we can find some cool things, and we're going to do a fun math activity with the items we find. Hey guys, this is Miss Holly. This is my husband Carter.
Hey.
He's an engineer at ACO Brands in Boonville, and he does a lot of measuring in his job. It's very important to have very exact measurements, so he's going to help us today learn how to use our ruler to measure to the nearest half and quarter inch. He's going to measure a couple of the things that we found on our scavenger hunt from earlier that we're going to work with a little bit later to organize. So I'm going to let him really quickly show you how to measure to the nearest half and quarter inch.
All right. Hey, y'all. Just give a little brief rundown of the ruler. So most of these are understood that this at this end is 0, okay? So then your ruler, your inch measurement, you can break it down into half inch, which is your middle, and it's also the longer of the little tick marks at the top. So that designates a half inch. And then your next to the longest tick marks, which are right here, which would be half of a half, which is your quarter, then that's your 3/4 mark. So you got quarter inch, half inch, which is 2/4. Then you got 3/4, 4/4, which is 1 inch. So that's how you measure into quarter inches and half inches. So like Alicia said, we're going to measure some of these little items we found with the scavenger hunt. It's a little magnolia leaf. We're going to measure it to the nearest half inch and to the nearest quarter inch to give you an idea. So make sure it's on the screen. So if you put this to the end of the ruler where 0 is supposed to be, you measure it to the nearest half inch, it's 6.5 inches. See where the tip of the leaf falls? So you got 6, and you can count. Your next biggest line is a quarter, so that's 6 1/4, then 6 1/2. So the leaf measures 6.5 inches. Okay, then here's a stick they found. Get it over here. If you place one end of the stick at the 0, like so, and then you can move it over, and it looks like it is going to hit right at 10 3/4 inches. See that? It's almost to the next biggest mark past the half inch point. So it's not quite 11, and it's more than 10 1/2, so 10 3/4.
We have taken our scavenger hunt, we have collected tons of things, and we've learned how to measure how long they were. And we found tons of leaves. It's the springtime outside. There were new leaves on lots of trees, so we collected a lot of different leaves, and we measured several of them, and I've recorded the lengths of those leaves that we found here. And this isn't a very helpful way to organize our information. I've got a lot of numbers, and I called my leaves by different letters because I wasn't sure of the type. That's a whole nother science lesson, so you're a STEM teacher. But I recorded a lot of lengths, and I want a different way to organize this. I want to be a little more precise about it. So we're going to create what's called a line plot today. So the first thing we have to have is our information, and right now this is here. These are measured in inches to the nearest quarter or half inch, okay? So what I've done is I want to organize this into something called a line plot, which helps us to see it, to see a frequency of how often things appear and which one we have the most of, okay? So once it's organized like this, we're going to create our template for a line plot, okay? And I've kind of done a little bit of this ahead of time just to help us do this quickly. The numbers that I have numbers that range from 5 inches all the way up to 6 3/4 inches. So I'm going to make a line plot that shows measurements from 5 inches all the way up to 7 so that I include everything. There may be numbers on here that we don't use, okay? There may be some that are blank, and that's okay. But I have 5 inches, 5 1/4 inch, 5 1/2 inches, 5 3/4, 6 inches, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 6 3/4, and 7 inches. Now I've made sure to label, this is what's called our x-axis, guys. X goes horizontal, okay? This is our x-axis, and I've labeled it length, and I made sure to note that we measured everything in inches, okay? Because that would matter if this were in centimeters or in inches. I've also given my line plot a title, okay? So now what I'm going to do is take this information, and I'm going to put it into my line plot. The way that I like to do this is to mark things off once I have put them on my line plot. So I'm just going to start with the letter A. The first leaf I found, it was 6 1/4 inches. So I'm going to go find 6 1/4 on my graph, and I'm going to put an X. then I'm going to make sure that I mark out that I've used this one. Okay? All right, now my next one is 6.5, so I'm going to go to 6.5, put an X, mark it off of my list. 5 3/4. 5 3/4 gets an X, mark it out. 6.5. That's the second one I have. So I make sure and I just go up. Okay, we're going to vertically stack these. 6 3/4. 6 1/4. 5 3/4. There again, there's another, so you stack it up. 6 1/2. 5 1/2. And another 5 1/2. Now I have organized my information. Okay, I've taken this kind of cluttered, messy way of having just a list of information and made it into a nice, neat graph of a sort. As you can see, again, there were things that we didn't use, and that's okay. It's okay if there are blanks, but it's very easy. If I look at this, what length was the most popular? How many did I find the most of? Clearly, a lot of leaves are 6.5 inches long. I didn't find many that were 5. I didn't find any that were 5 inches, and there were several that were just 1 or 2 of those lengths. Now, I could expand on this. I could continue collecting things and add to this and grow this graph as much as I wanted. This could be something that would be very, very useful if you were taking a poll. Maybe if you were taking a poll of your friends and you have 4 or 5 choices and you ask everyone what their favorite item of something is, you could very easily organize this, okay? You're going to see lots of questions. When you're asked questions using a line plot, there will often be how many total people were surveyed. In this case, how many total leaves did I collect? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You count the X's to find the total number of items that you were talking about. How many leaves on my chart were less than 6 inches? So I go to the 6 and I see how many were less. That would be smaller than. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them were less than 6 inches. Well, on the other side of that, how many were more than 6 inches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them were more than 6 inches. So you see how we can use this line plot to help us not only organize information, but answer questions about our information. Thanks for sticking along with us as we went on our scavenger hunt and learned how to use our information. I hope everybody learned a little something new today in our quick math lesson online.